Welcome to Loremen, a podcast about local legends and obscure curiosities from days of yore. I'm Alasdair Beckett-King, teacher of ancient wisdoms.
And I'm James Shakeshaft, the substitute teacher of ancient wisdom. So if you could please sit down, stop chewing. It's your own time you're wasting.
Double, double, toil and trouble. Here comes the story of two Scottish witches with quite a line in feline terrorism and whale butter. I have a witchy tale from Scotland.
Ooh.
From an area called Caithness. So I'm calling my story The Witches of Caithness, and the story takes place in the vicinity of a place called Thurso, and it's a very magical area. In fact, they've got a wizard who I'm barely even going to mention. I'm going to mention him briefly, and you'll see why the whole story is not about him. But they've got a wizard called Donald de Vale Mackay, also known as Lord Ray, and he lived in a place called Tongue Hall.
Tongue Hall?
Tongue, spelt like tongue. Tongue Hall. He's your standard Scottish wizard. He was invited to join the Black School of Padua, where the devil teaches his evil ways. And the devil's very reasonable. The fees are very low at that school.
Is it state subsidised? Or?
There is a catch, as you've intuited, which is that he will take for his own the last person who leaves the class.
Each class?
Each class, it seems.
How many classes a day?
I assume there's just one main class where they just outline the main stuff and then you're free to sort of, supported open learning kind of thing.
It's more like the University of the Devil.
Yeah, I think so. It's like a Steiner school.
The Devil Polytechnic.
Yeah, exactly. Mackay, of course, tricks the devil, naturally. Uh-oh. So they're all filing out. Mackay's last. And the devil's sort of coming to him, I'm going to get you. And he says, devil take the hindmost, pointing at his shadow. And the devil seizes his shadow and Mackay escapes. But from that day on, never has a shadow. Having no shadow in northern Scotland is not that impressive because many of the days are overcast. There's not that much sun. It's not that remarkable. What he did have was a team of imps who did his bidding, which is pretty impressive. Oh. And he's credited with having raised up a great many of the mountains in the area. Even though this guy lived relatively recently, like more recently than the mountains. One of Mackay's projects, and this is the reason why I'm not dwelling too long on him, was he wanted his imps to build a bridge across Dunnet Bay.
Right.
Obviously, you're going to need rope for that. What do you think, James, of all the materials in the world? I can already see you rolling your eyes.
Oh, no.
What do you think they made the ropes out of?
Did they try and make them out of sand?
Of course they tried to make them out of sand, James. It didn't work, did it?
What? Did they not understand the concept of rope? What?
Why must you be so constantly trying and failing to make ropes out of sand? Anyway, so as soon as I was thinking, this guy's great, he's got it all. As soon as I got to the ropes of sand, I thought, you're an idiot.
Yeah, you're on a beach. Look for seaweed.
But that man once turned into a horse and went to Thurso, which brings me neatly to Thurso. Which brings me neatly to another town near Thurso.
Oh.
Which is known as Scrabster.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a nice name.
All right.
I paused knowing that you would make an appreciative noise for Scrabster, which sounds already like a nickname.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the Scrabster.
What's he doing? Scrabbing.
He is crazy. Classic Scrabster. So basically it's a witch story that takes place in the 18th century, which is really late for a witch story, sort of 17th something or other. Mm-hmm. And because of that, that means that these are real people and it really happened. And what that means is, inevitably, the story is going to end with an innocent woman being murdered for witchcraft. A clearly innocent woman whose name is Margaret Nin Gilbert. One of the most interesting accounts of this comes from Eliza Lynn Linton's book Witch Stories from 1861. I'm going to find a little bit of that because she's keen to set the tone. Because the Scottish land of fairy, she makes it absolutely clear, is not the sort of fun fairyland of lots of places. It's very much the domain of the devil and of darkness. Mm-hmm. The story of Margaret Nin Gilbert is the story of a plague of cats.
Nin's not a middle name.
I think it means Gilbertson, because sometimes she's recorded as being called Gilbert's son.
Oh, right.
So
okay.
I guess it means of Gilbert, perhaps.
Used to
or
be
Gilbert
in...
daughter. Used to be in Gilbert.
Yeah.
Maybe. So Eliza Lynn Linton is keen to establish the witchy goings-on. She mentions that the minister of Redcastle lost his life by witchcraft around this time, and Mr. McGill's house at Kinross, he was minister there, was so egregiously troubled by a spirit which nipped the sheets and stuck pins into eggs and meat and clipped away the laps of a gentlewoman's hood and a servant maid's gown tail and flung stones down the chimney which wombled a space on the floor.
Were they underground, overground stones?
I mean, obviously I looked up the word wombled. And it means to sort of weave around.
Okay.
So they rolled about, which hardly feels worth mentioning that stones that have rolled down a chimney would then continue to roll about.
Yeah.
But they wombled a space on the floor and then took flight out of the window. That's worth it.
Yes.
Threw a minister's Bible into the fire and spoilt the baking and played all sorts of mad pranks to disquiet the family and defy God.
Sorry, spoiled the baking.
Spoiled the baking.
Yeah. Right, okay.
So this is the kind of witches we're up against, and this is the background in which a man called William Montgomery found himself harassed by a series of tenacious cats.
Oh.
Yeah, and we all know cats and witches go together like peas and carrots.
Yeah, they go
together. They do go together.
Yep.
Thanks for checking.
Yep.
And he was on numerous occasions attacked in his house by extremely violent cats. At one time, one of them attacked him and then jumped into a chest that had a hole in it and stuck its head out of the hole. Pretty sinister.
Oh, cheeky as well.
And another time, one of them got wrapped up in a plaid blanket by him and he attacked it with a knife and it didn't bleed. And on both occasions, he believed he'd killed the cat and threw it outside. But then the next day, the cat was gone, a sure sign of witchcraft. So this is what's known apparently as a foregang, which is a Scots word. I think it means like foregoing. So it means it's a sign that something bad is going to happen.
So
he was on the lookout.
Cats.
Yeah,
More cats.
An increasing surfeit of nighttime cat terror.
Mm.
So he was reporting this to the sheriff and other people saying, something's up. There's a witch in the area. So everybody had their eyes open. And those eyes, the eyes of suspicion, fell upon Margaret Nin Gilbert. So from Memorials by Robert Law, one Margaret Nin Gilbert in Oust, living about 1.5 miles distant from Montgomery's house, was seen by some of her neighbours to drop at her own door one of her legs from the middle.
What? What?
Yeah. No, I've really struggled to interpret what's meant by that. Margaret was seen to drop at her own door one of her legs from the middle, and being under bad fame before for witchcraft, the leg, black and putrefied, was brought to me, this is the sheriff writing, and immediately thereafter I ordered her to be apprehended and incarcerated. So now I wasn't clear on what was meant by dropped her leg from the middle. I thought, she just, like, off at the knee. Like she was at her doorstep and just the bottom half of the leg fell off.
Yeah, or a third leg?
I think it's a third leg, because I've read the rest of the story, and there's no mention of her having only one leg for the whole of the rest of the story. So I think it is off from the middle. I think it means from the middle of her body. And
right.
The idea is that this was one of the cat legs.
Right. That checks out.
So during the fight with Montgomery, he'd wounded the hind leg, and then one of the legs fell off last. So she turned back into a human, except had one cat leg lolling about. And then it fell off.
But why wouldn't her cat legs turn back into arms and legs?
It's not at all clear.
Did like a cat, the lower sort of chassis of a cat emerge from her stomach? And then the top would sort of just shrink and turn into fur and that.
I mean, it's quite clear that
one of the legs would need to become the tail.
Well, no, because the front legs of a cat are clearly our arms.
Yeah,
so if you turned into a cat, all your legs are accounted for. There's no space for additional surplus legs. So it's very confusing what's meant by that. Eliza Lynn Linton describes it as falling off from the rest of her body, which doesn't really make it clearer at all.
No.
And she's an interesting writer, Eliza Lynn Linton. She was the first...
She has a stutter.
She's a fantastic name. I read a little up on her on a website called Victorian Secrets, which I think is probably not what most people were attempting to type into the bar, but still, fascinating website. And she was sort of a proto-feminist in a way. She was the first woman who was ever paid a salary as a journalist in Britain. And then she got older and became the most vociferous anti-suffragette person in the country.
Oh.
And she absolutely hated the suffragettes and wrote sort of scabrous broadsides against them and was so extreme that the anti-suffrage movement rejected her application. So if she were now...
For being a bit much.
Yeah, she'd be like Peter Hitchens, or she'd have her own YouTube channel full of suffragette fails, wearing a trilby. Triggered much would be her catchphrase. And I've just remembered a really important detail about the cats. Detail about the cats.
5 legs.
This is how we knew they were suspicious.
Oh.
When they were in the house, they were seen to be talking amongst themselves.
Oh.
Which I like because it's suspicious, but at the same time, it's just them minding their own business.
Standard cats.
It's just them going like,
Cat chat.
Oh, the nights are fair drawing in, eh? Have you had your tea?
Have a little wee cat cigarette.
So, got any fights with any local townsfolk, have you?
Oh no, I tell you what, there's not as many, the mice around here aren't as nice as they used to be, eh?
And then a Scotsman comes in with a dirk and goes, have at you, hacking off your hind limbs.
That's going to fall out of witch's wee belly later. Apologies to any people who understand what the Scottish accent should sound like.
So it's a bit of a sad ending for... No, it's more than a bit of a sad ending. It's an extremely tragic tale of injustice for Margaret Nin Gilbert. She ended up in prison and the usual interrogation and questioning and the fingering of other people in the town. And she was quite clever, actually, because she pointed the finger at a few people who had died, which is quite good. So she's really won my sympathy there, but she also pointed the finger at a few people who were still alive.
That she didn't like.
Who were put in prison with her.
Right.
And then she mysteriously died in prison. So I think what happened was they weren't pleased.
Yeah.
But it's also a tale of repercussion. That's the name for this kind of story, where a witch or a wizard transforms into an animal and then is injured, and then when they turn back, they carry that injury with them.
Yes.
Repercussion. So I thought that was quite interesting, because I don't think we had a story of repercussion before. And this second witch, belonging to Caithness, is called Belle o' Brims, and she belongs to Brimsness, and is an old woman.
More upbeat witch?
A more upbeat witch.
Funny witch?
I don't know how funny. More... murderous.
Oh.
She was just generally known for being very witchy. So one of the witchy things she did was she had other witch friends over on Orkney, and she would travel across the Pentland Firth on the back of a crab.
Cool.
Pretty witchy.
Yep. But just the one crab?
Just a single crab, presumably quite large.
Yeah.
Or are you thinking one per foot, like skates?
I would have thought, sort of sideways inline skates.
Going sideways across.
Yeah, of course. That's the crab's natural method of transport.
That's a very good point, actually, because crabs... It's only just occurred to me that crabs don't swim. So I would have chosen a swimming animal to take me across. Yeah. I'll tell you who didn't like Bella Brims, and his name is... those crabs, as well as Rob Campbell, who was the main boatman between Thurso and Tongue, which I mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I can guess why.
And so they fell out, and she said, Rob Campbell, the next time you go to sea, you're going to die. And so he tried to avoid going to sea for as long as he could, but eventually he had to start up his business again.
The next morning.
Yeah, because that's how businesses work. You can't just do it because a witch said not to. So she went to quite great lengths here. She got a big tub, filled it with water, and put a little wooden bowl in the water so that it floated. And then she took either an earthenware pot or something called a Bellarmine bottle, also known as a greybeard bottle because of the appearance of a beard on it, which are known to be associated with witches. And she filled that bottle up with water with a cork in the end of it. And she put the bottle next to a blazing fire. And at this moment, Rob Campbell was setting out to sea. Once he was at sea, she opened up the cork in the little bottle a tiny amount, and the water was getting so hot in there, and steam began to spurt out. And when steam began to spurt out, the water in the tub began to rock, and the little boat started to go unsteady. She's doing sympathetic magic, James. I know you're a fan. It got hotter and hotter, and the water inside the bottle got hotter and hotter, and she opened the cork a little bit more, and a bit more steam came out, and the bottle began to rock and sway until she pulled the cork out completely, and then the water began to boil and froth and foam, and the little bowl was overturned. And she turned to one of her witchy accomplices and said, Robbie Campbell is awa now. Robbie Campbell is away now. Right. And indeed, his ship had been wrecked on the Isle of Stroma. I did save one highlight for the end, because I thought drowning Robbie Campbell might not be that much of a upbeat ending. Bella Brims churned butter from a whale. There you go.
That's not butter.
People said, where'd you get all that butter from? A whale.
That's not butter. Well, I never.
There you go. The Witches of Caithness. There were many and manifold, and that's two of them.
That's two of them.
Plus half a wizard.
Yeah, a little bit of a nearby wizard.
So to the scores, James.
Yes.
My first category, as always, is names.
Yeah, you really did well in your picking of the story for scoring of names.
Hold on, don't think I just... Tongue Hall.
Tongue Hall.
It just fell in my lap.
the Scrab Master, whatever it was.
Scrabster.
Scrabster. He's called that because he's really good at Scrabble.
Of course, Scrabster would win you nothing in Scrabble because it's a proper noun, but...
And he is a proper noun, that guy. Oh, Scrabster.
It's got everything.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to bother listing them.
The Nin Gilbert.
Nin Gilbert. Lynn Linton.
Lindsay. That just chucking in random
Ford
extra.
Gang. Repercussion. I mean, admittedly, I'm just saying words that I've written down on a piece of paper.
Just a word.
Repercussion is just an old word. Yeah.
It's a lovely word.
It is a lovely. The Black School of Padua. Gustavus Adolphus. He wasn't even in the story.
Gustavus Adolphus was a kid.
He's just in the thank yous. Special thanks to. He wasn't even involved.
Yeah, there's loads.
We've got Donald Duvail Mackay, and Duvail, I suspect the dove of that is black, like Black Donald. Do you remember Donald Do from one of our previous stories?
Yep. Lord Ray, or as I like to call him, Lord Ray.
It's very laddie area, considering it's got so many witches. Bella Brim's Ness.
Yeah,
and a Bellarmine bottle.
A Bellarmine bottle. I obviously have to give you 5, but just a little warning for picking stories just because they got great names. It's not gone unnoticed.
Has my strategy been...
I mean, it's the glee in your eyes when you said each name and nodded. Scrabster.
Tongue Hall. I can't believe you've seen through my stratagem. Which is quite a good word.
That doesn't count.
All right, so it's a stern 5.
It's a 5 with a little look.
All right. I'm going to do a story with no good names in it next.
Welcome to my world.
It's not my fault. Everything in the south is rubbish.
Apart from Cornwall. Which has all the Zs.
Or everyone's called John Zongle Ziddledang.
Yeah.
All right, second category. Supernatural.
Yeah, pretty spooky.
Is it?
Yeah, because... I mean, I think the first witch, it's more like the right phrase would be witch hunt.
Yeah. I mean, you could put that down to 2 cats being murdered and someone lying. And
I think also probably some kids just like dropping stones down the chimney, sticking pins in the food, like someone's just playing a bunch of pranks.
Yeah.
It gets out of hand. There are repercussions in all sorts of ways, not just having a diseased cat's leg fall out of your middle. There's repercussions in the pranks that are played. There's repercussions in that woman who gets called a witch. She then grasses up some other witches.
Yeah, it's like a chain letter, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like a pyramid scheme.
We think they killed her, right?
Yeah.
So there are repercussions there as well. They're not very supernatural repercussions. It seems like just what happens if you're really naughty.
Yeah, but
kids.
It's, surfing on crabs.
There is
milking a whale.
That's mad.
Explain that.
I don't want to. I think biologists maybe do. I don't want to. I don't want to get into that.
But even then, it's not a one-woman job. Whatever you're thinking, it's still impressive, isn't it?
Yes.
Whatever you think actually happened.
Yes.
The whole brilliant scheme laid against Rob Campbell with the big tub and
it's like she used an amp. Sort of amplified her magic using like a tub as a loudspeaker thing. I don't really know how electronics work.
No, that's basically it.
She did it in the bottle, which went to the tub, which ended up in the sea and presumably really messed someone up on a lock in the middle, halfway between or something.
Presumably, yes.
I don't know how this magic works.
Well, nobody does. It's in the nature of magic.
Yeah, it doesn't say she said anything. It just seems like, is that what happens every time I boil a kettle?
Yeah, it's chaos theory, isn't it? Someone flaps their butterfly. Someone flaps their butterfly.
Someone flaps a butterfly.
Yeah, that's the way it happens.
It's raining men. Yeah, so I think Supernatural is going to be a 4 because the first witch was clearly not a witch.
Yeah, you're right.
But 4 for surfing on crabs, definitely. I
accept that. I should have just come out here and just said a woman surfed on crabs and then just folded my arms and waited for the points to roll in.
Listed a bunch of great names.
That's basically what I did. Next category, and I've got to say this the right way, so you understand what I'm saying. The next category is women.
I hear you, brother.
Yeah. Or in the voice of one of those Scottish cats, women.
Yes, there are definitely women in this story.
There are women in the story, but also we're dealing with an undercurrent of almost sexism. There's almost a sexist dimension to the persecution and murdering of middle-aged women for being a bit weird, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And we've got Eliza Lynn Linton.
Yeah.
Definitely a woman.
She's, yeah.
Tipping her trilby, raising her eyebrow quizzically, doubling down on facts and reason.
Yeah, she's a real bad woman, she. Lynn Linton.
She's very interesting. Her friend, her stuff was, a lot of her stuff was published after she died, and one of her friends was sort of saying, it's a shame she didn't get a chance to re-edit it to take out all the bits where she was horrible, because she was much nicer in real life.
Oh, yeah.
So I think she was probably just a sort of Julie Burchill, Rod Liddell character. Just being a professional.
I don't know if that's a good idea, though, to be a professional or otherwise.
Well, it's very hard to make the jump from amateur to pro.
We're going to have to bleep.
Well, it's going to be a lot of bleeping. It's going to sound like we're saying something worse than we are as well.
We're not. We're using one of the orifices that both people have.
I don't think you can explain what's behind the bleep.
Behind the bleep. We could release a separate podcast.
Just release the bits that have been bleeped. But they're all mild. It's all things like drat.
Yeah, we're just being overcautious about our bumholes. Probably going to bleep that one. And that was like one of the most mildest ones.
I think we can... I think we're leaving bumhole in. I think we can do it.
Would we... If we were to bleep it, would we just bleep the bum or just the hole? Is it the hole that makes it rude, or is it the bum?
I think bleep hole is worse than bum bleep. Bleep hole
So, it's for women.
So, what I was saying about women is they're in the story.
I think
they've had a hell of a time.
It's a 4, and I think Lynn Lindsay has prevented there from being more women.
But with her anti-suffrage stance.
Yeah. So, yeah, 4.
Oh, well, thanks again, Eliza Lynn Linton.
You're being sarcastic, Mike.
Yeah, not really thankful.
Cool, good.
And my final category is innocent victims.
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely.
Because we've got quite a lot. We've got the crabs, brutally pressed into service.
Poor crabs.
A whale.
The innocent victims of the pins in the meat. Margaret and Gilbert, innocent victim, obviously.
The people she accused, also innocent victims.
Innocent victims. Donald DeVale McKay's shadow.
Another
innocent victim.
Yeah, it wasn't even...
Boaby, what's his name? Last guy, the boatsman?
Boaby Campbell,
innocent victim. He's just trying to run his business.
Just trying to run a small business.
Yeah.
In difficult circumstances.
Yeah. He's
actually.
Yes. So I think 5 out of 5 for innocent victims. I think there's 5 there.
Oh, easily.
Yeah. Boaby Campbell, he was just trying to keep his business afloat.
The absolute glee on your face. It's a shame this is an audio medium, because that's priceless.
And now, some tales of Cotswold dogging. Not like that. Funnily enough, my tale 2 includes witchcraft. These are 3 animal tales from the Cotswolds.
A triptych of animal tales?
Yes. Right, okay, first, this takes place in Banbury. Do you know Banbury at all?
As in Banbury Cross?
Yes.
Ride a cock horse?
Cock horse.
Is that the phrase? Cock horse?
Yeah.
That's what's in my head, but when I'm saying it sounds wrong.
Are we allowed to say that?
As long as you say the 2 words in that order, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely no bleeping needed there.
Yeah. Banbury is very much the Croydon of the Cotswolds.
Wow.
It's not that nice. There's some nice bits, but it's a bit rough. I don't think the people of Banbury will mind me saying that. I hope the people of Banbury don't mind me saying that.
You wouldn't keep those bells on your fingers and rings on your toes for very long.
No.
I said that the wrong way around, doesn't it? She didn't have bells on her fingers.
She's got rings on her fingers, sure, and bells on her toes. It's weird. Do we have to bleep it if that's in that order?
So it's a bit rough?
It's a bit rough. This bit of local folklore, which is from my absolute favourite folklore book, Folklore Mysteries of the Cotswolds by Mark Turner. This is an account of an exceptionally loyal sheepdog. You know the type of story. You've got Hachiko in Japan. You've got Greyfriars Boaby in Scotland.
Wee Boaby.
Oh, you don't know wee Boaby.
It's wee Boaby.
I think Boaby means Willy.
Does it?
I think it might mean Willy.
Wow. You would want a loyal one, though.
Yes. But so this loyal sheepdog from Banbury, it had been noted during its life that it was unusually intelligent. It could follow complex commands. It and its master were inseparable until the man died. And then maybe they weren't so inseparable. So on the day of the funeral, they locked it away with some of the master's clothes. And after the funeral, they released the dog. The dog instantly ran to the grave, started digging it up. The grave diggers, fortunately, were still there. They pulled the dog out, filled it back in. As soon as the dog got free, really quickly digging down. Grave diggers didn't know what to do, so they thought, I know what we'll do. We'll put some earth in. The dog will get out. The dog will realise what's going on. They started doing that. They got carried away. The dog didn't come out.
Oh, so sorry. While the dog was in the hole, they started tossing earth in onto the dog.
Yep.
Right, innocently burying a dog
alive
to teach it a lesson.
Well, I think they thought that it would sort of realise what was going on and get out, but it didn't. And according to the legend, it remains there still.
Well, I believe that it remains there still because it's been buried alive.
It's not really legendary, is it? It's just according to the laws of physics.
It remains there.
Its remains are there still.
Your stories are full of things that aren't spooky being presented as if they're spooky, like the photographs didn't come out or the dead dog didn't move.
The dead dog's still dead. Yeah, so that's what passes as folklore in Banbury.
Wow.
We buried a dog alive once.
I mean, I wasn't planning to go to Banbury, and I'm not now.
That was tale one.
Unsaddle my cock horse.
That was the light-hearted tale one. I didn't think it would ever stand up on its own, but I've just found that really funny. That's what passes for folklore.
I feel like two men buried a dog and then made up a story to explain why burying a dog was for the dog's own good.
Yeah, it was the dog's fault, actually.
That was quite annoying to us, gravediggers.
It's quite, they dig up bones. They are very much the antithesis of the gravedigger.
Natural enemy of a gravedigger.
Yeah, two sides of the same coin, though.
Locked in an eternal battle. I was going to say Manichean, but then I realised that I've only ever read the word and never heard it before, so don't want to embarrass myself.
No, better bleep it. Just pretend you swore.
Bleep it.
Now, the next tale. This is the meat of our Cotswold animal sandwich.
Cotswold Animal Sandwich. They were a band, I think. One of those folk bands that does a folk song for 4 minutes and then 7 more minutes of rocking out.
Cotswold
couldn't skip because it was an LP.
So this comes from Lower Quinton, which is at the top tip of the Cotswold Hills, as in north, not the top of a hill.
Right.
So the northernmost bit is Lower Quinton, and then there's a place called Meon Hill, which I think I didn't pick this just because of the name, but I think you'll find Meon Hill is a very funny name for a hill, because there would have been all sorts of confusion. Where are you? Meon Hill. Yeah, okay, but what hill? Meon Hill. Have you hit your head? So yeah, this is Meon Hill in Lower Quinton. It was believed the hill was created by the devil because he saw the abbey being built in Evesham. He was so angry, kicked a load of earth towards it, and St. Ecgwin, Ecgwin, saw it coming, and he and all the monks prayed, and the earth fell short, creating Meon Hill. If you sort of imagine a kind of a Dark Ages, really rubbish X-Man ripoff, that is what I think happened. The devil kicked some earth, the monks prayed in a sort of like a force field way.
Yeah, so it'd be like when the rays meet, like the force of God.
Yeah.
Against the force of
angry mud
kicking
versus prayer. To be honest,
natural enemy, mud and prayer.
Yeah, exact two sides of the same coin. Meon Hill is notable. There's all sorts of artifacts going back to Neolithic times. I think there was an Iron Age fort there, and apparently a farm labourer found a pot o' gold up there, but that's unverified. There's a ghostly huntsman and pack of hounds chase a ghostly fox on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. This book was...
Oh, they're getting time and a half.
This book was published before the fox hunting ban.
Right.
So it's not just some people fox hunting and saying it's ghosts so they can get away with being evil. Now, to the black dog, though. There's a black dog of Meon Hill. Now, in 1885, a 14-year-old plough lad called Charles Walton, 14-year-old, and he had a job. Do you think were they just more motivated in the past?
Is what you're saying kids today, eh?
Yeah. So this 14-year-old saw the black dog 9 nights in a row. And on the last night, he also saw a headless lady in a silk dress.
Oh, what a week.
And the next day, he heard his sister had died.
Oh, poor guy.
So it didn't get any better. In fact, it got worse. And then in 1945, 60 years later... 60? Yeah, 60 years later, just doing some maths there, 60 years later, the now 74-year-old Charles Walton met his brutal end on that very hill. Now, Charles Walton, in the interim, had grown up to be quite the oddball. He was a bit of a recluse. People were a bit scared of him. He could feed birds with his hands. He could feed birds from his hands. Sorry. That's pretty much standard practice.
Not just producing seeds.
Yeah. He'd feed wild birds in his hands. Wild dogs could be calmed by his voice. And he had what was considered to be a sinister trick. I think it is. It's really weird, which makes it sinister. He'd catch a toad and attach a small toy plough to it and then just release it just to run around. And he'd keep doing it.
And then let it go.
Yeah. One, where's he getting this many small toy ploughs from? That's his thing. Also, how's he catching toads? I don't think I've ever knowingly, verifiedly seen a toad. I've seen a few frogs, some ugly frogs.
I've picked up a frog, but that's it.
Never caught a toad.
That's my limit. But even the other thing that's weird about it is ploughshares are designed to be pulled by a walking animal, not a famously jumping animal. So a plough on a toad, it's just going to be plough gap, plough gap, plough gap, plough gap. It's just not going to work.
That is inefficient.
What an oddball.
Yeah. Sinister.
Because you were saying everyone thought he was sinister, and then you listed two perfectly nice things, like he was the bag lady from Home Alone 2.
Well, she was considered sinister at first, though, wasn't she?
Yeah, but you can see it in her eyes.
She's a goodie.
Whereas Donald Trump, same film, in his eyes. Nah.
Baddie.
Constantly putting little ploughs on frogs.
Speaking of notable oddballs, it reminded me there was this guy when I was in the town I grew up in. There was this within a Cotswold town, behind a Cotswold cottage. So imagine that, the yellowy stone, the Cotswold stone walls. There's a miniature scrapyard, just like in the middle of town. We'd pass it on the way to school, and it was run by a guy called Tommy Aldridge, who I must have talked about before on this. He was pretty old when we were kids. He has died now, and he was a sort of looked like archetypal yokel-y type bloke, like trousers held up with a piece of string, like a woolly hat that's got a hole in it kind of thing.
Like Greengrass from Heartbeat.
But a more rotund Greengrass. And he'd eat a loaf of bread by pulling the end off and tucking it under his arm and just pulling the white
out the middle
of the loaf of bread.
Until he just got like a crusty glove.
An inefficient boxing glove, yeah. And his catchphrase was, "War a minute," and that's just what he'd say, "War a minute." And a mate of mine remembers he came round to pick up some scrap metal from his house. His dad was dealing with it, obviously, because we were kids. And he opened the door, and Tommy Aldridge was there, and Tommy said, "War a minute," as a greeting, and my mate just cracked up laughing because Tommy's doing his catchphrase. And then Tommy looked at my mate's dad and went, "What's the matter with him? Got tickles?" Got tickles? That's so lovely. Anyway, this guy, Charles Walton, he also kept a piece of dark glass or a witch's mirror in the back of his watch. And people paid him money to do little spells, little charms and whatnot. He's a witch.
In 1930s and 40s?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then on Valentine's Day, 1945, he was found dead, brutally murdered on Meon Hill. Now, we did actually mention this crime in the Longcompton episode. It's similar. It's pretty horrible. Pitchfork through the neck.
It's the classic Cotswold pitchfork.
And a cross cut into the throat or chest, which is supposed to, with a witch, that's supposed to kill all their spells, basically. If they've got any charms or spells, that's how you stop them.
Right.
And no one was convicted for it. Ultimately, the actual police came in because it was 1945.
The real police, they almost never appear in our stories of obvious criminality.
And the superintendent, Robert Fabian, Fabian of the Yard? Yes, from the TV show from 1956 and 1958, Fabian of the Yard. I'm not sure about the dates on that. I've said it very definitely. Basically, there was a TV show called Fabian of the Yard based on this guy's memoirs. And this is the actual superintendent, Robert Fabian.
Fabian.
The very same, came to investigate. He was walking over Meon Hill and a black dog rushed past him. And then a young boy came by and he said if the boy was looking for the black dog, the kid's face dropped, looked terrified, and he ran away. And once people heard that this black dog had been sighted, They clammed up. They didn't help the police investigation at all.
Really?
They totally tight-lipped. Everyone shut down. Like, when the policeman walked into the pub, people would just walk out. They're just very Wickerman.
Yeah. Wickerman.
Wickerman. The Wickerman. Yeah.
The implication there is that people in town knew more than they were telling.
There was disbelief in witchcraft because, you know, people were paying this guy to do spells and stuff, so they believed it. And they think that later on people have sort of looked into it and they think it may have been because something to do with the old style calendar change. Because in 1752, I think they changed, I can't remember the exact date annoyingly, but when they changed the calendars over, it basically moved by 12 days. So it meant that 14th of February was actually the 2nd of February, which is Candlemas, which is a major witchcraft date. Now, don't worry, I looked up what Candlemas is. It's a Christian celebration or remembrance of the presentation of Jesus at the temple.
Oh, yeah.
I'm presuming
amazing
this is,
big one.
Yeah, wasn't it? He
Big
was
time.
really nervous beforehand. His clicker didn't work. And no, apparently it's something. It's weird. It's weird. It's to do with a thing where the mother is to make a sacrifice 33 days after her son's circumcision of 1 lamb or 2 doves. And that's what Candlemas is. And
That's Candlemas. I think Candlemas has got too commercial these days. It used to be about your son's circumcision
I know.
and killing 2 doves.
I think the Candlemas merchandise is in the shops earlier and earlier every year.
It literally got earlier because of the changing of the calendar.
And that's the horrible second animal-based tale and the main one.
Oh, wait, so have we got...
Just a little sort of...
Have I got a third in the Cotswold animal sandwich?
Yeah, just a little sort of palate cleanser.
Someone on tambourine?
This is from the famous town of Broadway. It is the
Are you claiming that all the plays, the Broadway musicals happen there?
the
Is that what you're
original.
claiming?
That's where they originally come from.
Oh, right, yeah.
I once angered a taxi driver, actually. I got a, like the last train from London to a town which was 10 miles away from the town that I actually needed to go to, but there's no public transport. And I just figured, oh, I'll be fine. I'll get there and I'll ring up a taxi on a Sunday night and they will come and get me because I'd been in London.
Yes.
And then I did that and I got there and I rang up and a guy said he wouldn't come pick me up. And I said, why not? And he said, I'm doing a drop off in Broadway. And I went, in America? He hung up. I had to walk 10 miles in the dark. It was terrifying. Terrifying. It was like a moonless night as well.
Ghost dogs running either side of you.
Oh, left, right, and centre. So, yes, from Broadway, this is the Ghost Kennel Man. So some guy, rich guy, heard his hounds baying in the night and he sent his kennelman out to shut them up. The kennelman went out there in just his nightshirt. The hounds didn't recognise him, tore him to pieces. And his ghost is Menahort in his nightshirt to this day.
I really like the way you closed the book there. That's it. Man eaten by dogs.
There you go. There's your 3.
I feel like I'm ready to give 5 out of 5 already. I haven't even heard the scores.
Yeah, okay, to the scores then.
What's your first category?
I don't know. Okay, get out of the way. Naming.
Naming.
Meon Hill.
Meon Hill.
It's a name that sounds like it's not a name.
Okay, that's good.
St. Ecgwin.
St. Ecgwin, actually, that's an excellent name.
That's how you say it.
Yeah.
And
Fabian of the Yard.
Fabian of the Yard.
Or
Superintendent.
Fabian of the Yard.
Fabian.
Am I misremembering it?
Fabian, I don't know. Fabian, probably. Candlemas and Charles Walton.
I'm leaning towards a 3.
Yep.
Which I think is fine. I
it's a
don't want to
fair
disparage
3.
the names.
Yeah.
I like Ecgwin a lot.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't. It wasn't replete with names.
No.
Could have had a few more.
I didn't pick the story solely based on what the names were like.
This is like what happens with new labour in schools. You know, you put the tests in as a way of rating the schools, but in the end, they're just working towards the tests, aren't
Exactly.
they?
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Next test. Supernatural.
Supernatural. Well, there's nothing actually supernatural about just killing a dog.
Burying a dog alive.
Yep, that's not expressly
But
supernatural.
it's there to this day.
There's nothing particularly supernatural either about killing a man with a pitchfork, even if it was because he was a witch, nor indeed putting a ploughshare onto a frog or multiple toads. It's strange, but is it supernatural?
It's weird. Maybe with a Y.
But 9 ghost dogs, a ghostly woman,
Yeah.
that's supernatural.
Headless.
Yeah.
Ghost Kennelman.
Ghost kennelman,
Yep.
who was a ghost.
Yeah.
So
And the just weirdness of the village all shutting up, that's a bit spooky. A bit scary.
Yeah, it's not spooky, though.
No.
What I think is a little bit spooky is you've cleverly arranged the story in such a way that there's sort of a nice symmetry to it, you know? So, that's life. Sometimes man kills dog. Sometimes dog kills man. Sometimes man sees dog and is murdered. The three...
By another man.
Yeah. Probably not a dog. But the three main outcomes of human-dog interaction are captured within the stories.
What, to kill that dog, be killed by that dog, or simply see that dog?
That's the three
To be fair, you're right, you got it covered.
We've all either been killed by, killed, or seen a dog.
Yes.
It's human experience.
Yeah.
So it's 3 out of 5 for supernatural.
Brilliant. For each of the states of dog.
For each of
the close encounters of dog kind. Okay. Menagerie. The crazy Cotswold world of animals.
It's got everything. It's got dogs. It's got toads.
Yep.
It's got several more dogs.
Yeah.
What else has it got?
A ghostly fox.
A fox?
Which is a bit like a dog.
It's in the sort of Canis family.
And some actual dogs.
Sorry, some actual dogs.
Actual dogs, ghost dogs.
Oh, so you're counting actual dogs and ghost dogs as separate?
They're two separate kind of dog. Intelligent dog.
Sorry, what?
Oh, a bird. The guy could feed birds.
He could feed birds, yep. Okay, you got some birds there.
And he also shouted at dogs. The toad? Did we say the toad?
Yes, you've counted the toad, multiple toads.
Yeah. There's your animals.
That's your... So if you put Shakeshaft's menagerie, if you put all of these into the back of a cart and rode it around the Cotswolds...
Yeah. People would come.
Yep.
And then they'd see that black dog and they'd run away.
The problem is I've underestimated the simple-minded credulity of the people of the Cotswolds. I think you're absolutely right. They'd love it. It's a wonderful day out for everyone. It's like Trago Mills. Where's the peacocks?
There's a leaflet in the services all about it.
There's a whole counter in the tourist information. Shakeshaft's menagerie.
Come see this guy's dogs.
All right, it's 4 out of 5. Yeah. Very cheekily. It's a very cheeky 4 out of 5 for menagerie.
You won't believe what he did to this toad. Final category, box set.
How is it a box? You've got 3 stories, so that's like a box set.
Yeah.
For one.
The 3 sides of a box.
Yeah.
Outside, inside, and the left side of the box.
Very persuasive.
Yeah. And you got the box, like, you follow the story of the kid from his 14-year-old self seeing that dog on the hill all the way to him as a 74-year-old weirdo getting murdered on that hill.
And then there's the investigation.
The whole investigation.
Fabian comes in.
Yeah.
With his maverick techniques.
Of seeing a dog.
Yeah, but he gets results, doesn't he, James?
No, not at all. Everyone
ignores
not on
him. This occasion.
Everyone starts ignoring him after he says, he saw a dog.
But it's, there's a bit of a Twin Peaksy kind of the killing vibe to it.
You're going to want to binge watch these dogs. That's right, I'm still thinking about my slogans for my menagerie. They still don't talk about it to this day. Well, to this 2014, I read an article.
Until this BBC. Very day, 2014.
I read an archived article on the BBC where they'd gone and no one would talk about it.
Really?
They sort of tried to make
because no spoilers. Just like a box set.
Yes, thanks for that extra point there.
I actually felt it tick over.
Yeah.
From a 3 to a 4 there.
Oh, okay. That seems low.
Well, what else have you got? What else have you got in the behind the scenes in series 5 of your box set plan?
Just all them toads.
Just a lot of toads?
Yeah, we follow one of the toads. The next series is all about the toads. It's like The Wire season 2. They misjudged what everyone wanted to actually get out of the story. Don't worry, we're going to go back to the weirdo in series 3. And also all the dogs.
I liked in The Wire when they put that little plough on Stringer Bell. Oh, no, Prop Joe. He'd be the one you put a plough on.
Yeah, bouncing around. Okay, I'll take a 4.
So I think it's 4 out of 5.
Yeah, fair enough. That's probably about how many series we get commissioned for before they pull the plug. You've been listening to Loremen. The Loremen are James Shakeshaft
and Alasdair Beckett-King. please subscribe, rate, review, and recommend to a friend. You can tweet us at LoremenPod or email us at contact@loremenpodcast.com to suggest stories from your area. I should say that a few people got in contact from the last series and suggested stories, which was lovely, but they were almost all of them about child murders, and so we're probably not going to do them because I don't want the podcast to be a mainly child death themed podcast.
It is very difficult to be funny about infanticide.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope though, isn't it? You get one child ghost, people want more.
I do have one lined up called The Child Ghost.
Have we got another? Have we got
people want more. Thanks for your suggestions, though, guys.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate the suggestions, but grown-up murders, please.